when ancient symbols came alive, the red sun of Kepler-4 for 2b cast long shadows across the crystalline formations that dotted the planet's surface like frozen music. Dr. Sarah Chen adjusted her environmental suit and wiped the condensation from her helmet visor, studying the peculiar structures that had drawn her to this remote world 3 months ago. At 34, she had already made her mark in xenarchaeology, but this discovery could change everything. Sarah had always been more comfortable with ancient mysteries than with people. Her colleagues at the Galactic Archaeological Institute often called her obsessive, but she preferred the term thorough. While others rushed to publish their findings, she spent years studying every detail, every pattern, every possibility. This careful approach had led her to Kepler-4 for 2b, a world that most researchers had dismissed as geologically uninteresting. The crystalline structures before her told a different story. They weren't natural formations at all, but carefully crafted monuments that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. Each structure was unique, yet they all shared common geometric patterns that reminded Sarah of mathematical equations written in stone and crystal. She had spent weeks cataloging these patterns, photographing them from every angle. But today she felt compelled to do something different, settling cross-legged on the rust-colored ground. Sarah opened her field journal and began to sketch. Her grandmother had taught her to draw when she was young, claiming that the human hand could capture details that cameras missed. Sarah had never forgotten that lesson, and her field journals were filled with precise illustrations of her discoveries. As her pencil moved across the paper, something strange began to happen. The patterns seemed to flow from her mind through her hand, as if she understood their meaning on some deeper level. The geometric shapes connected in ways that made perfect sense, even though she couldn't explain why. It was like solving a puzzle she didn't know she was working on. The first structure began to glow brighter as she drew, its inner light pulsing in rhythm with her pencil strokes. Sarah paused, looking up from her journal with a frown. The light had been constant before, never changing, never responding to anything. Now it seemed to be reacting to her presence, or perhaps to her drawings. She returned to her sketching, captivated by the mathematical beauty of the patterns. Each line seemed to demand the next, each curve calling out for its companion. The symbols flowed across the page like living things, and Sarah found herself adding details she hadn't consciously observed. Her hand moved with certainty, as if guided by some invisible force. The ground beneath her began to vibrate softly, a harmonic hum that seemed to come from the crystalline structures themselves. The sound was hauntingly beautiful, like a choir of angels singing in a language older than words. Sarah's pencil never stopped moving, driven by an compulsion she couldn't explain as she completed the final symbol. The last curved line that seemed to lock all the others into place. The world around her erupted in light. The crystalline structures blazed like stars, their radiance washing over the barren landscape and transforming it into something magical. The harmonic hum grew louder, more complex, building to a crescendo that made Sarah's bones vibrate. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the light faded. The humming stopped. The world returned to its previous state of quiet desolation. Sarah blinked, her vision slowly adjusting to the normal lighting. She looked down at her journal, expecting to see her careful sketches, but what she found took her breath away. The drawings seemed to move on the page, the lines shifting and flowing like liquid mercury. The symbols pulsed with the same inner light as the structures around her. And Sarah realized with growing excitement that she had stumbled upon something extraordinary. These weren't just decorative patterns or ancient artwork. They were something much more significant. A shadow fell across her journal, and Sarah looked up to see something that made her heart stop. A ship hung in the sky above her, vast and beautiful and utterly alien. It was made of the same crystalline material as the structures around her, but shaped into flowing curves that seemed to defy physics. The vessel was easily the size of a city, its surface reflecting the red sunlight in spectacular patterns of color. Sarah scrambled to her feet, her journal clutched against her chest. She had been alone on this planet for 3 months, her only company the automated systems of her research station. The possibility of encountering alien life had always been present in her mind, but she had never expected it to happen like this. The ship descended slowly, gracefully, settling onto the plain with the delicate precision of a butterfly landing on a flower. As it touched down, Sarah realized that it wasn't just similar to the crystalline structures around her. It was identical, in composition, as if it had been grown from the same cosmic seed. A section of the ship's hull began to shift and flow, creating an opening that revealed a soft, pearlescent light within. 3 figures emerged, and Sarah's breath caught in her throat. They were tall and elegant, their bodies composed of the same living crystal as their ship. They moved with fluid grace, their forms shifting subtly as they walked, as if they were more energy than matter. The beings approached her slowly, their movements careful and non-threatening. As they drew closer, Sarah could see that their faces were smooth and featureless, except for 2 points of brilliant light where eyes might be. They communicated through harmonic vibrations that seemed to bypass her ears and speak directly to her mind. "Greetings, Architect," the lead being said, its voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "We have waited long for your return." Sarah's mouth went dry. "I'm sorry, but I think there's been a mistake. I'm not an architect. I'm a xenochiologist. I study ancient civilizations." The beings exchanged glances, their light ears dimming slightly. "You carry the mark," the second being said. "You activated the beacon. You completed the sequence." Sequence. Sarah looked down at her journal, understanding beginning to dawn. "You mean my drawings, the gateway coordinates, the third being confirmed. You have opened a path between worlds, between dimensions. The network has been dormant for millennia, waiting for one who could read the ancient script." Sarah's mind reeled. "But I didn't read anything. I just drew what I saw. I was making sketches for my research." "You saw because you were meant to see," the lead being explained. "The symbols chose you as they chose your predecessors. You are the latest in a long line of architects, humans who carry the genetic memory of the builders. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "Those who came before, who created the network that connects all living worlds. They departed long ago, but they left guides, markers, for those who would come after. You have activated one of these markers, and in doing so, you have called us to you." Sarah looked around at the crystalline structures with new eyes. "These aren't ruins. There's some kind of technology. Gateways, the being confirmed. Doorways between stars, between galaxies. The network spans the universe, connecting all intelligent life, but it has been dormant, waiting for the right key. And I'm the key," Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. "You are one of them. Your species carries the genetic blueprint of the builders, encoded in your very DNA. When you draw, when you create, you tap into this ancient knowledge. You don't just copy what you see. You understand it, complete it, make it whole." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. What does this mean? What happens now? The beings moved closer, their form shimmering with inner light. Now, you must choose. The network is active, but unstable. It requires guidance, wisdom, understanding. You can help us stabilize it, teach us to work with human intuition and creativity, or, Sarah prompted. Or we must shut it down permanently. The risk is too great. An unstable gateway network could tear apart the fabric of space-time itself. Entire star systems could be destroyed. Sarah looked down at her journal, at the symbols that had seemed so beautiful moments before. Now they felt like a terrible responsibility, a burden she hadn't asked for. How much time do I have to decide? Time is not a luxury we possess, the lead being said. The network grows more unstable with each passing moment. We need your answer now. Sarah closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the universe pressing down on her shoulders. She thought of her grandmother, who had taught her to draw. She thought of her colleagues, who had called her obsessive. She thought of humanity, struggling to find its place among the stars. When she opened her eyes, she saw the beings watching her with patient intensity. "If I help you," she said slowly, "what would that mean? What would I have to do?" "Come with us," the lead being said. "Learn the true nature of the network. Help us understand the human perspective, the creative spark that your species possesses. Together, we can stabilize the gateways and open the universe to exploration and connection." Sarah looked round at the desolate landscape of Kepler-4 for 2b, then up at the crystalline ship that waited to carry her to destinations she couldn't imagine. She thought of her quiet research station, her careful cataloguing of ancient artifacts, her solitary existence among the ruins of the past. Then she thought of the possibilities that lay ahead, the chance to explore not just one world, but countless worlds, to meet civilizations beyond her wildest dreams, to be part of something greater than herself, something that could unite the universe in understanding and cooperation. "I'll come," she said, her voice steady despite the magnitude of her decision. "I'll help you." The being's light eyes brightened with what Sarah interpreted as relief and joy. "Then let us begin," the lead being said. "The universe awaits." The price of human curiosity. The interior of the crystalline ship was unlike anything Sarah had ever experienced. The walls curved and flowed like frozen water, pulsing with soft, rhythmic light that seemed to respond to her presence. There were no visible controls, no mechanical interfaces, just smooth surfaces that hummed with barely contained energy. The beings moved through the space with effortless grace, their forms shifting and adapting to the ship's organic architecture. Sarah found herself in what she assumed was the ship's central chamber, a vast space filled with floating geometric shapes that rotated slowly in complex patterns. The shapes were beautiful, hypnotic, and as she watched them move, she began to recognize some of the symbols from her drawings. They were part of a larger pattern, a three-dimensional puzzle that existed in constant motion. "This is the heart of our vessel," the lead being explained, its harmonic voice filling the chamber. "Here, we monitor the network, track the flow of energy between gateways, maintain the connections that bind the universe together." "It's incredible," Sarah breathed, turning in a slow circle to take in the full scope of the chamber. "How long have you been doing this?" "Since the builders departed," the second being replied. "We are the Zephyrians, the chosen guardians of the network. For 10,000 of your years, we have watched and waited, maintaining the gateways in their dormant state, and now the network stirs to life, activated by your drawings, your unique understanding of the ancient script. But we face a problem, Architect. The network is unstable, and we do not know why. Sarah moved closer to the floating shapes, studying their patterns. What kind of instability? Energy surges, the third being explained. Dimensional fluctuations. Some gateways are opening spontaneously, creating connections that were never intended. Others are failing entirely, their crystalline structures cracking under the strain. We have tried to correct these anomalies using our traditional methods, the lead being continued, but our approaches are failing. We believe the answer lies in understanding the human element, the creative spark that your species brings to the ancient equations. Sarah frowned, watching the geometric shapes rotate. You're saying that my drawings change something fundamental about how the network operates. Not just your drawings, the second being said, your interpretation of them. When you sketched the symbols, you didn't merely copy what you saw. You completed patterns that had been left intentionally incomplete, added elements that were missing from the original designs. But I don't understand, Sarah protested. I just drew what felt right. I wasn't trying to change anything. That is precisely the point, the lead being said. You acted on intuition, on creative instinct. These are concepts that we struggle to comprehend. We are beings of logic, of mathematical precision. We see patterns and equations, but we cannot feel them as you do. The ship shuddered slightly, and Sarah noticed that several of the floating shapes began to glow more brightly. The Zephyrians moved with sudden urgency, their forms flickering as they communicated in rapid, harmonic bursts. Another gateway has failed, the lead being announced. The system in the Andromeda sector has collapsed entirely. We are running out of time. Sarah felt a chill of fear. What happens if the whole network fails? Catastrophic, dimensional collapse, the third being said grimly. The universe would fold in on itself. Reality would unravel. All life, all existence would cease. But if I help you, if I can figure out how to stabilize the network, that won't happen. It is our hope, the lead being said. But first, you must prove that humanity is worthy of this responsibility. Our council requires it. Before Sarah could ask what that meant, the ship began to move. She felt no acceleration, no sense of motion, but the chamber around her began to shift and flow. The floating shapes rearranged themselves into new patterns, and the walls became transparent, revealing the vast expanse of space beyond. Stars wheeled past at impossible speeds, galaxies spinning like cosmic pinwheels. Sarah watched in awe as the universe flowed around them, and she began to understand the true scope of the network they were trying to save. It wasn't just a few connected worlds. It was everything, all of existence, bound together by invisible threads of energy and possibility. We approach our home world, the lead being announced. There you will face the council, and they will judge whether your species can be trusted with the power of the network. The ship emerged from hyperspace near a planet that took Sarah's breath away. It was a world of living crystal, its surface covered in structures that grew like trees from the bedrock. Cities of light stretched across continents, connected by bridges of pure energy. It was beautiful beyond description and terrifying in its alien perfection. As they descended toward the planet's surface, Sarah saw other ships similar to theirs, but each unique in its own way. Some were vast and cathedral-like, others small and delicate as flowers. All were made of the same living crystal, all pulsed with the same inner light. The ship settled onto a landing platform that grew from the ground to meet them, and Sarah followed the beings through corridors that seemed to respond to their presence. Other Zephyrians moved past them, their forms shifting and flowing like liquid light. Some paused to study Sarah with their brilliant eyes, but none spoke. They entered a vast chamber that reminded Sarah of an amphitheater, but instead of seats, there were floating platforms where dozens of Zephyrians waited. Their combined harmonic voices created a symphony that filled the space with ethereal music. Council of Guardians, the lead being announced, we present the architect, the human who has awakened the network. A figure descended from the highest platform, larger and more radiant than any Zephyrian Sarah had yet seen. When it spoke, its voice was like the sound of stars being born. Welcome, young architect. I am the Prime Guardian, keeper of the ancient knowledge. We have brought you here to determine whether your species is ready for the responsibilities you have awakened. Sarah felt very small in the presence of such ancient wisdom. I'm honored to be here, but I have to ask, what exactly are you expecting me to do? We have prepared a test, the Prime Guardian said, a puzzle that has challenged our greatest minds for millennia. If you can solve it, we will know that humanity possesses the wisdom necessary to guide the network. If you cannot, if I cannot, then we will have no choice but to shut down the network permanently before its instability destroys everything we have worked to preserve. Sarah swallowed hard. And if the network shuts down, your species will remain isolated on its single world, cut off from the galactic community forever. The age of exploration will end before it truly begins. The weight of responsibility settled on Sarah's shoulders like a mountain. Not just her own future, but the future of all humanity hung in the balance. She thought of the children who would grow up dreaming of the stars, of the scientists who would spend their lives wondering if anyone else was out there, of the artists and poets who would never see the wonders that awaited beyond Earth's atmosphere. I'll take the test, she said, her voice steady despite her fear. The Prime Guardian gestured, and the chamber around them began to transform. The floating platforms rearranged themselves into a complex three-dimensional pattern, and Sarah found herself standing in the center of a vast puzzle made of light and crystal. This is the heart of understanding, the Prime Guardian explained. It represents the fundamental connections between all living things, the bonds that hold the universe together. For 3,000 years, our greatest minds have sought to unlock its secrets. The pattern is incomplete, but we cannot determine what is missing. Sarah studied the floating elements around her, recognizing some of the symbols from her drawings, but seeing many others that were completely alien. The pattern was beautiful, but somehow hollow, lacking the warmth and life that she had felt in the crystalline structures on Kepler-4 for to be. You approach it as a mathematical problem, she said slowly, beginning to understand. But what if it's not just about mathematics? What do you mean? The Prime Guardian asked. The builders, the ones who created the network, they weren't just engineers or scientists, were they? They were artists, poets, dreamers. They built something that wasn't just functional, but beautiful, something that would inspire and uplift all who encountered it. Sarah moved among the floating elements, not trying to solve the puzzle with logic, but feeling her way through it. With intuition, she began to rearrange the symbols, not according to mathematical principles, but according to what felt right, what seemed to resonate with the deeper harmonies of existence. The missing element, she said, her voice growing more confident. It's not a symbol or an equation, it's emotion. It's the capacity for wonder, for joy, for connection. The builders didn't just want to connect worlds, they wanted to connect hearts. As she spoke, Sarah reached out and touched the center of the pattern. Instead of adding a new symbol, she simply opened her heart, allowing her feelings of wonder and hope and love to flow into the ancient design. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The entire pattern blazed with new light, the symbols rearranging themselves into configurations of breathtaking beauty. The chamber filled with music, but not the cold precision of Zephyrian harmonics. This was warmer, more complex, touched with the indefinable quality that humans called soul. The assembled Zephyrians fell silent, their light eyes dimming with what Sarah interpreted as awe. The Prime Guardian descended from its platform, moving with slow, reverent steps. "Impossible," it whispered. "For 3 millennia we have sought the missing element. We never considered that it might be something we could not possess." "You do possess it," Sarah said gently. "You just express it differently. The care with which you've guarded the network, the dedication you've shown in preserving something you didn't fully understand. That's love, too. It's just love expressed through duty and sacrifice." The Prime Guardian's form shimmered, and Sarah sensed that she had touched something deep within the ancient being. "You have shown us that the builders were not just creators of technology, but creators of meaning. The network is not just a tool for exploration, but a bridge between souls." "Does this mean I've passed the test?" Sarah asked. "You have done more than pass," the Prime Guardian replied. "You have shown us the true purpose of the network, the reason it was created. We offer you a choice, Architect. Return to your world as humanity's first ambassador to the galactic community, or remain here as our partner in understanding the deeper mysteries of existence." Sarah thought of her quiet research station, her careful cataloguing of ancient artifacts, her solitary existence among the ruins of the past. Then she thought of the possibilities that lay ahead, the chance to explore not just one world but countless worlds, to meet civilizations beyond her wildest dreams. "I choose both," she said finally. "I'll return to Earth to share what I've learned, to help my people prepare for the wonders that await them. But I'll also return here to work with you in maintaining the network and exploring its mysteries." The Prime Guardian's lighters brightened with joy. "Then let us begin this new chapter in the story of the universe. The network awaits, and with its infinite possibilities for discovery and connection." As the chamber filled with the harmonious voices of the Zephyrians, Sarah felt a profound sense of purpose settle over her. She had come to Kepler-4 for to be as a lonely researcher seeking answers about the past. Now she was returning to Earth as a bridge between worlds, carrying with her the keys to humanity's future among the stars. The universe was vast and full of wonders, but it was no longer empty, thanks to an accidental sketch and the courage to follow where curiosity led. Humanity would never be alone again.